Hi, I'm Darnell at Way Oven Recipes. This is my 30-day review of the Cuisinart large digital air fryer toaster oven. If you have not already seen my initial review of this cooker, please be sure to see that. In that, I detail all the things that you can do with it, the limitations, the specs, all that good stuff, measurements, temperature, testing, all types of stuff going on there. So if you're interested in seeing cooks, if you're interested in seeing measurements, if you're interested in seeing temperature ranges, all that type of stuff, and how to use the cooker, all of that is in the initial review. This is a 30-day follow-up where I talk about my thoughts on the cooker, how I like it, how I feel it compared to some other cookers, and other things as far as my thoughts on the cooker in general. And so I'm going to start by just saying, generally speaking, and I do have my notes here, this cooker is okay. I'll say that as far as cookers go, it's okay. And it has some things about it that I want to let you be aware of that I'm going to talk about here in this 30-day review. Overall, it's okay though, but there's some things you need to be aware of about this cooker. And this cooker, unlike the smaller Cuisinart digital air fryer toast oven, which I've done a full review of in many cooks here on this channel. There's a smaller version of this cooker that looks just like it, but smaller. That smaller cooker, you could cook things up really hot and fast without a preheat. You never really needed a preheat with that particular cooker, and things would work out well. With this larger one, and maybe just because it's bigger, it works best with a preheat. So it's best to use a preheat with this cooker. And so I said it definitely needs it more than the smaller model does. The big preheat, it seems to have, over time, my big preheat seems to have broken. I have basically a show where I did basically a cook of baking some cookies and such, and that worked out well in the initial review. But later on, as I've continued to use the cooker, it seems like the bake preheat takes like maybe 10 minutes. Like something's off with the bake preheat now. And even if I do a preliminary preheat, the bake preheat doesn't seem to work right. Something's off with that. Of course, I could send the cooker back for repair. I know it wasn't working like that before. But for that, I really don't want to go through the hassle. It's not a big enough issue for me to feel like having to pack it up and ship it off. But it's something that changed in the cooker over time, and that is something to be aware of. And since the preheat doesn't necessarily work like it should, you just can, you can keep track of time on the bake and just, see what time you started something and just keep track of time on your clock or something to, if you have that type of issue. I haven't noticed that issue with other baking functions, or with other cooking functions. I noticed it with bake. I haven't noticed it with other cooking functions. So just my bake, the preheat has gotten kind of screwy, and I don't know why. Now, I do want to also mention that this cooker is not the best with smoke. The smaller version handled smoke very well. Never had major issues there with smoke, but with this larger model, it seems like if you have something that starts making some smoke, it makes a big problem with this particular cooker. So it's not as well suited for smoke as its smaller counterpart. One thing I do like about this cooker I want to point out is that when you open the door, it does auto pause. I like every cooker that auto pauses when you open the door, and just every cooker should do that. And the door seems to hold heat okay. It's a pretty big door. It doesn't have any like sealant on the door, like any type of seal, like any type of gasket or anything, I guess you could say. But still, it seems to hold the heat in okay. Now, the user interface on the cooker, which I go through in full detail in the initial review, it's fairly easy to figure out. So I don't think that there's any real major learning curve with using the cooker. And it also has a clock. The clock is a nice to have, so I do like that about the cooker. Also, this cooker, unlike a lot of others, has audio controls. You can control the audio to be loud, soft, no sound. I like that. Every cooker should have that so that you can manage the sound controls and not disturb other people in your house if you don't want to. Not everybody needs to know when, you're cooking. So changes on the fly when you're cooking with this particular particular cooker is pretty easy to do. It's easy to add time, it's easy to change the temp. In the middle of a cook, it's not a problem. And as far as the heat for this cooker, it is a very hotter end cooker, even though it needs that preheat to work best. It does run pretty hot as far as cookers go. It's not quite as a barn burner as the smaller version, but it does get pretty hot. It gets hotter than some other large cookers that are large air fryer ovens. It's got the fan on the top, so the heat's blowing down, and so it can get things pretty hot. I think that it does do better than maybe the Instant Omni Pro. I think it probably does a little better than the Instant Omni Pro as far as hotness is concerned, though, just in my opinion and actual use with food when you're running things at the higher temps. Now, this cooker, one other good thing about it is it can hold a 13-inch bake pan without handles. That's always good when you can use a 13-inch bake pan with no handles. If you got handles on your 13-inch bake pan, sorry, not going to fit. Now I'm going to go through details of my experiences with every function in the cooker that I use, and I will point out the functions that the cooker has that I did not use as well. With air fry, I found that air fry works well. So it does good for air frying. At 450, it cooks super hot. Toast works well, but like with every air fryer oven, the oven style cookers, toast takes longer than like a pop-up toaster. With a pop-up toaster, you have heating coils on both sides close to the bread, and so it's able to heat the bread up fast, toast it on both sides evenly fast. This cooker can toast both sides of your bread, but it takes longer than a pop-up toaster. It takes longer than, say, the Ninja Foodi flip toaster. But it does do a decent job toasting. Bagel I didn't use. For bake, the bake function works, but it overcooks the top of things way too much. It overcooks with the fan and the heat coming down. Like, as I said, it cooks hotter than like the Instant Omni Pro, so like the Instant Omni Pro isn't going to overcook the top of things as much in bake mode as this cooker does. This cooker just really overcooks the tops a bit much. And that's something to keep in mind. It does get the baking done. You can bake things up in it and they'll turn out fine, but your top's going to get a bit browner. Well, maybe even a little more than brown. Broil, I didn't use broil. I also did not use pizza. But the roast function I did use, and roast works well. And I will say with roast, I did 2 chickens in here. The first chicken that I did, and things with the chicken were really crisp and really, I guess, blackened. As far as the chicken, I didn't cover either chicken. The things came out really blackened with the first chicken. Second chicken, I did the same time, same temp, but it wasn't really blackened on the top. The exterior of the chicken, it had crisp skin, but it really wasn't overcooked as much. It was cooked more than you would get from like the Calphalon air fryer toaster oven. It was a little more cooked, a little more browner than that, but it wasn't as black as the first one. So when it comes to roast can work out pretty nice. I guess your outcome might vary a little bit because the heat's coming down. You might get things that are a little more blackened than you might prefer, or maybe not. I didn't mind. I like it blackened. It was all good with me. But I did notice the second chicken wasn't nearly as blackened. Both 5-pound chickens, but that's how it went. Dehydrate I didn't use. Proof I didn't use with this cooker. I did use proof in the smaller version of this cooker, and I showed how to bake bread and all that good stuff. I also use dehydrate in the smaller cooker too, to show how to use dehydration with that. But I didn't use those with this bigger one. I didn't use slow cook, and I didn't use this low function that this cooker has. I did use reheat. I used reheat all the time. I don't use a microwave, so when I was reheating stuff, it was reheating right in here. Does a great job with the reheat. Warm also works great if you're just trying to warm something up. Or maybe you just want to melt some butter real quick. It can do that. Or, just soften butter. You can just use warm in a real low temp just to soften up some butter in a few minutes. Now, dual cook, it has a dual cook feature where you can cook with 2 different functions, like it cooks with one function for a while, then after the set time for that first function, switches over to the second function automatically. That works okay. It works fine. I don't think with most cookers it's too much trouble if you want to use 2 different functions just manually after the first one's finished to add the second one, and it's not like you should be outside of the house when your cooker, this type of cooker especially, is running anyway. But dual cook works okay, works fine if you need to use it for something. Preheat, the preheat function works, so you can do a preliminary preheat, but like I said, I do like a preliminary preheat with the preheat function here, get things up to the temp I want, and then start a bake. And then the bake, because of the issue I said that bake has now with preheat in this cooker, it still would do like a 10-minute preheat on bake. And I mean, that's really weird. So preheat works though. Now I want to point out the noise level for this cooker. It's not bad. It's less than like a basket air fryer. It's not too bad at all. It does have the fan going, but it's not too much trouble. It's okay. When it came to cleaning this cooker, cleaning it, it's not too much work, but it just does hold a lot of stains. The cooker just holds a lot of stains. So I'm going to show you the inside of the cooker, and let's see if I can, well, actually I have to get the drip pan down here. You can see the drip pan is very soiled. I mean, lots of stuff on there. I'll just show you inside some. It's not too much stainage on the, on the walls there. But I did run and grab the bake pan because I wanted to show you. The bake pan holds a good bit of stains. If you're going to be using the bake pan, be sure to line it with something. And so you all know I'm not really too stressed about stains. I don't use any special concoctions, and I really don't care to use any to try and get stains off. I just use regular dish soap and water and wipe things down. And the accessories, like this air fry basket, I would put in the top rack of the dishwasher. Everything else I wash by hand. And the stains, they never made any smoke just from having stains. So I just roll with that. Now I want to talk about this cooker in comparison with a few others. And I will say that if I don't mention a comparison that you are particularly interested in, you can look at the other reviews here on this channel and make your own determination. I'm just offering a few and leaving it there. So I want to compare this Cuisinart large digital air fryer toaster oven to the smaller Cuisinart digital air fryer toaster oven, the one that I did an earlier review of here on this channel. And I'll say that I personally prefer the smaller one, the original Cuisinart digital air fryer toaster oven, because it never needed a preheat. It always cooked up things even faster than fast. And so it just worked out really well. It was smaller, sure it was smaller, but it just got things knocked out really quick, which was pretty cool. And it also handled smoke better than this larger one seems to handle smoke, in my opinion. So between the two, I prefer the original digital air fryer toaster oven over this large one. This is my opinion. Now, in this large digital air fryer toaster oven from Cuisinart versus the Emerald Lagasse Power Air Fryer 360 line of cookers, talking about the XL and the regular size one of those. This does cook hotter than the Emeralds, and the Emeralds, they were just way cooler than even like this Cuisinart. I mean, this Cuisinart is not a cool, it's a hot cooker, but the Emeralds are just a bit too cool for me as far as the air fryer toaster ovens go. So even with a preheat, the Emeralds are a little cool. So I prefer this over the Emeralds for just knocking things out, getting them done. Even though, sometimes too much heat can be a pain. When it comes to the nuances between the cookers, I prefer the Cuisinart. This Cuisinart also in like air fry mode, I don't think it has a mandatory preheat. I think that the Emerald has a mandatory preheat in the air fry mode and a lot of other functions. And so just overall, just with the experience of the two cookers, I prefer this large Cuisinart digital air fryer toaster oven over either the XL or the regular size of the Emerald Lagasse Power Air Fryer 360 line of cookers. Now, this Cuisinart large digital air fryer toaster oven versus the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven. I have to say that the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven wins. The Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven has been the champ since it came in the house, and it's still a champ. And in this case, it's the Champ because it cooks things up, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it doesn't overcook things like the Cuisinart will, and it keeps things more moist than the Cuisinart does as far as moistness. This doesn't really dry things out, but the Ninja Foodi just does a better job with that. It's just a lot easier to work with the Ninja Foodi than the Cuisinart as far as worries about things being overcooked or baking and just overcooking things on baking, you know. Now when I air fry, I don't mind getting things blackened with the air fry. I don't even mind getting the chicken blackened with a roast. But when you're baking like cookies and such, you don't want your cookies, you know, being just way overcooked. And so that's where this cooker fails for that with me, whereas the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Fryer Oven is able to bake and do a decent job with it. So the Ninja Foodi, you know, it's got a 90-second quickie preheat, so you never have an issue of a long preheat. With this Cuisinart, even when you do a preheat, even if you do an advanced preheat, it's going to take at least a few minutes to preheat the temp. Of course, the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Fry Oven is not reaching temp in its 90-second preheat, but it's still knocking the food out in a decent amount of time with that quickie preheat. And so it's just kind of cool to just move along and it still get your food done in a nice amount of time, whereas this cooker needs its full preheat to reach its full cooking potential as far as cooking things up. Once it's there and it's cooking, yeah, it can cook things up real hot. It can even overcook your stuff. But I still, between the two, I prefer using the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Fry Oven. And so the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Fry Oven remains the champ. Been a champ for a long time. This is the first Cuisinart that I've had that did not become the champ after using it for 30 days. Usually Cuisinarts take the crown, but not this one, not this time. So, with all that said, I do want to say that nothing in this video is sponsored. None of those other cookers I've talked about sponsor me either. Nobody. Say what I want to say, and none of them give me a check. So, you can, if you like, you can help this channel out. In the video description, there are lots of ways. My cookbook, donations, membership, merch, whatever you want to do is all up to you. And so with all of that said, if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Share the video with a friend. Leave your comments. Subscribe. Hit that notification icon. And good eating.